This podcast is intended for mature audiences and could be triggering to some. Please use discretion when listening. Hey everyone, welcome to Hearts with Jewels, back with another episode where survivors can share their story. I'd like to introduce you to our guest today. His name is John. John is a survivor of narcissistic abuse. Thank you so much for meeting with me today, John. Could you tell us more about yourself and your situation with your ex, like in the beginning and when the mask fell off?
Of course, yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me too, and thank you for everything that you do. Yeah, essentially, it ended up being a 4-year relationship. When it first started, when her and I got together, it was I almost couldn't believe it. It was so intense. Like it was so much, if you want to call it the love bombing, but it was just I just hadn't experienced anything like that. And always down to do whatever. Always wanting to do things for me, like the most random things, like just the kindest, would go out of her way. It was almost too much. I almost was like, this can't be real, right?
Right.
And it was just so I saw nothing wrong with it. I thought, this is great. This is what I've always wanted, like someone that, truly does care and different things like that. And it was one of those things then when it was almost like one day I just realized what has changed. But I realized, looking back, there was a progression, where it
Right.
tailed off and the attitudes changed. But it was just like, all of a sudden, it was like one day I was like, where is this person that I used to know? And then I started realizing that it had gradually, I feel like I was being conditioned the whole time when I
Mm-hmm.
look back on it now. And I have this, like, sometimes examples might pop into my head while we're talking, but like this one just comes to mind. And there's so much other stuff, but it was things like this that kind of points it out. But so when she wouldn't stay here with me in my house, and when she would stay, we each have our side of the bed, right? And
Right.
so for watching TV, I'll take my glasses off, set them to the side, my necklace, whatever, when I go to sleep. Well, if she's not here, I will sleep in the middle, kind of, or maybe it just depends on where I'm at. And I remember one time I set my glasses and my necklace off on the other side of the bed, like on the other end table.
Right.
And she came in the next day and said, "What is this? Why is this over here? You got someone else in here? You got someone in this bed at night? You sleeping on this side now?" Just things like that were so absurd. She knew that wasn't true, but it would get me to where I got so stressed about it and got so defensive when I didn't even do anything wrong. And this is after many, 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 many things like this have gone on. This one just always sticks out in my head.
Right.
And I'm like, no, 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 no. And I'm like, I find myself apologizing for this, and I'm like, no, 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 I'm sorry. I'm like, dude, you didn't do anything. Like, you literally did nothing. And it was like that with so much stuff. But I realized though too then that it was getting to where, so I was always thinking of stuff like that. And I'm sitting there moving stuff before she comes over, doing all these things just to be like the best possible version I can be, to quiet any fights or arguments or anything that might pop up ahead of time.
Right.
And this just like engulfed my whole life, like I'm sitting there thinking, how's she going to think about this? How's she going to react about that? And while I'm doing all that, she's doing whatever she wants. You know what I mean? And it's like
Mm-hmm.
conditioning me to where I'm like, I only need like one text a day because I'm just happy to get that one text. She just stops responding. Like, like it's like I become a burden. She would tell me, she would walk in the door and just like kind of cut me down with stuff right when she walked in. And I've been so happy to see this person. I've been waiting all day, see her. She comes in the door, starts cutting me down, saying all these things. And it's just like, what happened? And when did this become acceptable? And then so I was like, oh, we're just playing, whatever. So then when she'd give me, I remember I wrote down, she said to me one time text, "Hey, I'm proud of you." I thought I was like, the king of the world or something. Like I just felt so pumped up again, different things like that. Like it's just because you're so used to being cut down and all stuff. And that's what the weirdest and hardest part for me, and something I still struggle with, is that transition from all that. Like, how did I not notice it? I look back and I see little signs and different things like that. But when she started, I mean, I'm telling you, it was just so much. She would drive 45 minutes to come see me, sometimes in the middle of the night, just sleep there. And then she'd leave in the morning because she had to go to work. She'd have to leave early, but she just wanted to be with me, she said. And I was like, well, this is amazing. This is what I've been looking for, But again, it was just getting me there where I would do anything for her. And then once she got that, it was like a different person came along.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the toughest thing. And then she would blame me for when things didn't go right or when I didn't do something she wanted. And then I would always give in. I would always, it was just because I had been conditioned, like, no, I've got to keep her happy because this is what love is, she loves me. And I
Right.
always kept thinking, maybe if I do this, maybe if I do that, it will go back to like it was in the beginning, or even
Hmm.
just a part of that. And then I kept telling myself, no, it's cool. I can live like this. I can do this. I can deal with this. This is fine. This is fine. This is what love is. You gotta, and I do love the whole notion of fighting for your relationship, whatever you want to call it. But there comes a certain point when it's no longer a relationship anymore. Is what it
Exactly.
felt. I was like, who is this relationship with? This relationship is just me and doing things for her, or giving her money, or what, paying for stuff, or doing whatever it is that she needs that day. That's why I got attention, because she needed something, wanted something,
Exactly.
or another source of whatever she was getting wasn't doing it, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, she's super nice to me again, and I'm like, I don't know how I did that for 4 years. It was just like, it was crazy. It was like one day I realized kind of what was going on, and it was getting so worse because of some other stuff that happened. And that's kind of when I started following stuff, like especially like your stuff and different things like that. So I don't know, that was a long explanation. I'm sorry, but yeah, that's kind of how it got there. There was definitely a transition that when I look back on it now, I can see it, but it was slow and gradual. It wasn't just overnight. But then when I look at it, like, it definitely felt like it was all of a sudden a different person.
Right, right. Well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It must be difficult walking on eggshells for 4 years, avoiding arguments, trying to keep the peace, trying to be this perfect person. And you never know, which side of the bed they woke up on, like if they're going to be angry today or happy or,
Exactly.
chasing the beginning 24/7. Like that must be hard.
They can walk in the door and you can just see it sometimes on the face, and you just know it's like, well, that's going to be one of those today. It's just, you know I'm
Yeah.
not happy, so you're not going to be happy. And it's like, no matter what. And then I remember, like, I had days where I would say something like, hey, like, let's just make the most of this today. Like, let's just have a good day. And it's like, why are you so dramatic? Why are you bringing this problems up? Why do you think there's a problem? What's wrong? I don't understand. Like, I was always the dramatic one, like all this stuff. Like, I didn't understand that. I was like, so me just wanting to have a good time and have no arguments is dramatic. Apparently I'm making this dramatic. So yeah, it was
No.
just, yeah, the eggshells analogy is, I never understood it when I was younger. And then, like, when you experience something like this, it really is a thing. It's just like, you're overthinking every single thing you do. And then, like, I was never one of those anxious people to, like, with texting or different things like that, like, it is what it is. we
Right.
we all have our own lives, we're all busy in our own ways. But it got to the point where when I wouldn't hear for a day, like, I started to wonder, like, I would, oh,
Right.
and so then it became where every text I sent, I was like, oh man, what could I have said that would have gotten misconstrued in there? What did I do wrong? And it is just, it's such an attack on your brain. There's never a moment of peace, it seems like. And that's what the hardest thing for me was, is like, sometimes it was better to be having say we go on a trip or something, is better to be having a terrible time on a trip together. At least my brain was somewhat quiet because I knew she was with me. I could see what was going on. I could do what, as opposed to, like, having to think what I did wrong. Sometimes for me, that was one of the biggest things, like, just personally. But oh yeah.
Right. So the next question was going to be like, what made you stay? But I'm assuming, it was the breadcrumbing.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. You get those. I mean, I remember I had a couple times where I said, this, we're done. Like, this has got to be. And it was just one of those where, it wasn't anything specific that happened, but it was like, she would do these things, like, where, and then it felt like it was in the beginning for a couple days. And I'm
Yeah.
like, see, that's all it took. I remember at one point we were sitting there, and she just kind of looked at me and then kissed me. And it was just like, that's a nothing thing. But for some reason, it was just the way she did it and everything. It was like this sweet person again that I knew in the beginning. And I just thought to myself, nothing else matters. Like, this is what I want. This is great. This is what love is. And then it's like the next day you're thinking already, like, wait a minute, what am I doing? We're right back. She would adjust her levels to get me to stay for a certain point, to get what she needed. We
Right.
actually did break up, and well, I found out she was cheating on me, and she like laughed it off almost, you know, and that like killed me even more. But then like she came to get some stuff, and then she just talked me into somehow thinking that, you know, maybe this wouldn't have happened. I remember she said something like, well, maybe if this, none of this would have happened. And then I started thinking, well, you know, maybe that's true, and maybe I could have worked a little harder, maybe I could have been a little better. And then at the end of the day, I was like, man, if we give this a try and we both work really hard at it, and I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's like, we can do this again. And it was even worse. It was even worse. Within like 2 weeks, I was like unhappy again, and like she just being treated exactly like it was before. And but yeah, it's those breadcrumbs. It's the, you know, oh, you're the best, or they'll say something about the future, you
Right,
know.
right. Yeah.
And so then I started thinking, oh man, you know, we really are gonna have a great future together and stuff like that. And all these things start playing out in my head again. And no, no, I don't want to get to the future, because this present is terrible, you know.
Right.
And that was definitely one of the biggest things for me for staying, was just thinking that if if I loved hard enough, if I could do it, you know, she like it was like I wanted to win, like she would choose me. But man, this just was, it was bizarre. It was just, I look back on it now, and I don't know who that person was that I was, you know. And
Yeah,
that's what
because
bothers me. I wasn't just losing her, like by her doing this, I was losing myself, you
you
know.
lost
And
yourself. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. I look back and I'm like, who is that guy? He never stood up for himself, and I was never like that before. But I just had this emotional attachment where, you know, a look could just make me, it got to where I don't want to say deprived, but like I would say love deprived almost, because like when you're together and just you get that smile and you're like, oh man, she does love me, you know. And I'm like, that's not the way it works, dude. Like I look back and I'm like, what were you holding on to? I don't know what I was holding on to. I really don't.
You were holding on to this image from before, like this idea of them.
Right.
You were definitely trauma bonded for sure. But like, you know, when you're chasing the bare minimum, they give you that little bare minimum for 1 second, and then they keep you under their finger for like another 3 months after that, and then
Exactly.
it
Yeah.
dies down. They give you that 1 second again, and they keep you for like a whole year. Like it's crazy, and it's just like the
Mhm.
highs and the lows. That's just constant.
Yeah. And she would do like a lot of stuff like that. Like she would end up making stuff about her some way, but like at the same time, like, oh, we should plan a trip, or we should do something like that, you know. And it's stuff, like I said, like the future stuff. You start thinking, oh, you know, and so you're like, I just got to get through this little part of time, and then we're gonna have a great time, different things like that. And it just, I talked myself into so much stuff, you know. And you shouldn't have to be talking yourself into anything in a relationship, you know. It should be back and forth together, everything. But man,
Right.
it just, yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me. So, what did you do and how did you set yourself free? Like, what services, resources, or people that helped you and helped you in your recovery as well?
A big thing for me was just like TikTok and things like that. Like sometimes even just reading comments on stuff, that so many people deal with these types of things. Like sometimes I think social media, all the stuff can be bad for some things, but sometimes it's really great. Like in instances like these, I think it's amazing because people can share and you can hear different things. And like, I mean, I had been in a extremely long relationship before, you know, almost 10 years of a relationship together, you know. And yeah, it had its ups and downs, but it wasn't like this type of thing.
Hmm.
So it wasn't like I hadn't had long-term experience. I had, and I'd worked through problems, tons of them and stuff like that. But there was something about this attachment that I just thought that, you know, I thought that this is what I was fighting for, is this is the kind of love like that you fight for and you don't give up on and all stuff. And it wasn't love at all. But I
Right.
just thought, you know, I was like, well, nobody will really understand this, because when you can burn your friends out really super easy by talking to them about certain stuff. Oh, we're going to talk about this again. Cause I only had like two people I would share stuff with, like personal friends, and that I just felt comfortable talking to. But then when
Right.
you find out, and cause they don't, and they're probably bad examples because they're like with their high school sweethearts still married. You know what I mean? It just,
Hmm.
it's not fathomable for them. And so for me, seeing other people hearing things and hearing the exact same things, like the how you can end up blaming yourself for the problems, how all these things people can talk you into stuff. And I was just like, these are the exact same things I'm experiencing.
Right.
All these stories are so similar. And then like I so much of the stuff that I came across of yours was what really got me to realize, like, okay. And then I would look for certain things in the behaviors and in the way our relationship was going. And it was like, yep, 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 just checking them all off. And that was a huge thing for me.
Right.
So I found out some, I mean, I don't want to keep putting myself on blast with like all my personal stuff, but like, so I found out some more stuff that like made me like, okay, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. And I was trying to be nice, and I wasn't gonna like tell her that I knew all this stuff. I was just like, let's just end this. This isn't working. And she immediately was like, yeah, it's probably for the best. All stuff like fought zero for the relationship,
Hmm.
but still tried to keep me like wrapped around her finger. And I was still stuck. I didn't want to totally lose her, even though I knew I had to break up with her. And that just drove me crazy. It was like but the one of the best things that I can recommend to someone is just like, as I was trying to get over it, and you don't have to like fully get rid of everything, but I took all the pictures down. I mean, like the fridge was full, the whole house was full of stuff, and just little things like that. I know it sounds maybe cliche or simple, but it's like, it's just a little bit less thinking about her. It was every day.
Exactly.
And there's always going to be moments, there's going to be songs, there's going to be stuff like that. But man, when I did a few of those things, it got a little bit easier every day. But then again, all it took was one text and I was reeled back in completely. But that was one of the things for me, was just listening to what people had to say, out there that have had these same experiences, and no experience is ever going to be the same. And I think that's one of the denial things in the beginning of something like this for me. I kept saying like, no one knows our relationship like I do. No one knows what I can handle. No one know, like they don't understand. Like, and it's like, no, people go through this all the time. Like
Right.
people definitely understand. I know you understand.
Yeah.
It's one of those. It's yeah, and that was one of the biggest like eye-opening things for me, was that, dude, this isn't healthy. And that made me realize that if there's other people experiencing this as well, that means there's other people out there experiencing healthy relationships, and I could be one of those people, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Possible. And it's one of those things, like the people that do these types of things, like they're they're not out reaching out or searching for help or anything, because it's working for them.
Exactly.
And so I think that's a really big thing too, is that then if you ever try to, like, anytime I tried to say anything, it's like I immediately was shut down. I was being dramatic, I was doing this, doing that, and it makes it hard for you, so you just kind of accept things sometimes. So that was, for, again, to come back to it again, the searching out stuff online was such a big help for me. And just even in music, like just listening to lyrics and stuff, and
Yep.
you realize there's so many people that are writing so many things about this stuff. Eminem has been through narcissistic relationships for sure, I believe. Like with his lyrics, sometimes I listen to them and I'm just like, okay, this is like, obviously sometimes it's a little over the top, but a lot of it, I'm like, this is my life story, like
Right.
exactly and he had this line. He's like, my friends, what do they know? Like he's talking about how terrible this relationship is, and he's gonna keep doing it though, because nobody understands. They don't know. His friends are
Hmm.
telling him to stop. They're like, nah, what do they know? They don't know anything. And that's the way I felt for a long, long time. And then once you can kind of separate yourself from it and you can see what's going on with other people and their experience this, and then you realize that you're experiencing it too, and you're like, this is a problem. This isn't just something I'm dealing with. This is a problem. And that was a big turning point for me.
And pulling yourself out though, like, and fighting your mind and your thoughts was probably the hardest part too.
Definitely.
So, like, how's your life now? Like, with your healing journey, and obviously you still get triggered. How has this experience impacted you?
Definitely. I mean, for me, one of the biggest things was stuff that you talked about and you tried to help me with. And it was funny. I remember you saying like, I don't think you're going to do it. Like, cause I was trying to go no contact, but I kept being like, well, I need to do this. Well, I need to do that. Well, I need to say this to her.
Right.
And you kept being like, that's you were nothing but helpful 100%. But you knew, because you had been through it before. You knew. You're like, I don't think you're going to go no contact right away. And I wish that I would have just listened to you more and just been like, because I didn't need that last conversation. I
Right.
kept thinking like, I need to tell her what's going on. I need to get all my feelings off my chest, tell her how I feel, tell her how bad she's hurt me, do all these things. It makes no difference. It made no difference.
Hmm.
Like, I remember I finally told her that I knew she came over to my house unannounced, told me within like 2 minutes she was going to be there. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was just like, I can't keep doing this. And so we were having this, having this conversation. And I told her, okay, look, I know this, 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 and this. And it just, yeah, her face, I would have been mortified if the roles had been reversed. And she just goes, yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. Like, what, like it wasn't even a big deal. Like, oh, basically I just murdered our relationship. I just ripped your heart out, but it's cool. You'll get over it, like type of thing. And I was just like, nothing I said mattered. It made no difference. Like, she already knew what she was doing to me. She didn't
Right.
need me to tell her that. Thinking that this would bring me closure, that's why I felt like I needed to have a conversation with her, or I needed to do that. I heard someone say on something that the closure you're searching for should be the disrespect that they're showing you. That's all the closure you need,
Right.
like, which is true. I mean, you don't need to do more with that. Like, that's the way they're treating you is telling you all you need to know. Actions are so much louder than words, so much
Exactly.
louder than words. It's one of those things. They can say all day that, oh, this time will be different, or I've changed, or, oh yeah, I love you, all stuff. But it's like, you're not showing me that at all. Like, you're just throwing out words that used to mean something, I felt like, in the beginning, but now you'll just say them to get whatever you want. And
Yeah.
because those words actually mean something to me. And so, yeah.
100%. Oh, I think
Yeah.
I remember that too when you were telling me that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was actually, I was messaging you when I got a message from her that said, I'm going to be there in like 2 minutes.
I
And
remember.
yes, that was
And I was
nuts.
trying to pull you away. I'm like, don't open
Yes,
the door.
yes, yes. And then it wasn't 2 minutes. It was like 30 seconds. There was a knock. I was like, oh, here we go. And she just had a spare key that I'd forgotten about. So yeah, it does get better
It
every
does.
single day. It gets easier. There's definitely days when, like, one thing will make me think about a million things and I'll be thinking about it all day. But then the biggest thing, and sometimes it's the simplest stuff. And that's why I think a lot of people probably in their like healing journey, whatever you want to call it, they don't necessarily, it makes it hard to stick with it because the things that you need to do are so simple. It doesn't seem like there's any way that could be the solution. I think we're all looking for some grand solution, but I mean, honestly, like distance, time, things like that are going to make such a big difference. But also for me too, it was choosing what I think about. So I'd get stuck in those, like I'd hear a song, or for some reason I I would find pictures that I had put away, but I hadn't gotten rid of them. Now I'm like, okay, get rid of them.
Right.
Don't shove them in a drawer. You open a drawer and you see a picture and you see this smile and it looks genuine. And you're like, oh my goodness, like that was such a good time. You start thinking about it. But then I would tell myself, whoa, 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 think about this. And so I wrote some stuff down, moments, like bad moments. I just did it in my notes in my phone. And I would revert to that sometimes when I needed to remember. If I was remembering good times, I'm like, well, remember this time. And I would look at that stuff and I was like, okay, yeah, no. And then I was in a much better, well, it wasn't a better mood, but in regards to the relationship, I was in a much more an actual mood, knowing what what I'd been through in the relationship. And I wasn't in this land of ignorant bliss, when it came to what happened. So that was a big thing for me, was choosing what to remember and remembering everything as opposed to just the good. I think we like to look back and romanticize the times, that we had together and things like that. But it's, in reality, there really wasn't that many good times. There were good times, but they were all part of the game, I feel like. So it's what was and I think that's a hard thing too on the struggle, is then you start looking at yourself and you're like, was any of this real? And then, or why did you choose this person over me? What's wrong with me? Why? And it doesn't matter. You just have to move on. And
Exactly.
as hard as that is, it's the truth. And I think that's what was tough for me, was to get past all that, because I didn't want to give up. I felt like I'd given up, and you're not giving up on the relationship. They destroyed the relationship, and
Exactly.
once I realized that, you helped me with that, because I kept saying, like, I feel so guilty, or I feel bad, like I feel like I'm giving up on what could be. But that dream that you have is never going to happen. I feel like, I just don't think it's going to happen once you're with someone like that. It's just because that's not their goal. They don't want that. They use that to keep you to get their supply, as we call it, and you build them up while they tear you down.
Exactly.
I feel so much lighter even when it's not perfect, I know there's still problems that need to be addressed and different
Mhm.
things like that, and I need to work on this. But at the same time, I do feel like I can breathe again, because I felt like, for myself, I was like, I can't keep doing this. And
Right.
for them, it's like they'll do this forever because they can just
Yep.
use you, and they don't mind if they pick up where you left off or whatever. And I just kept telling myself, I was like, how much, if I hadn't broken up with her like I did, how much longer would she have just used me? Like, what's the cutoff point? She clearly wasn't happy,
There
but
is
there were
none.
days she was getting what she needed and all
Yeah.
this stuff, and she had her own relationships going on anyways. And so what, like, how do
There
you
is
do
no
that to
cutoff date. Yeah.
how
Don't
do
keep
you do that to
taking
someone?
until you
Right.
stop it.
Right. How do you do that to someone? You just keep, and so that's what I didn't understand. For me, I think that was another thing too that I didn't even really bring up, but like, a part of the struggle for me was, I was like, how could someone do that? This can't be real. She's not doing that. Like, this isn't real. I chose to believe the lies. I knew I was being played, manipulated, all this stuff, but I just chose to be like, I'll just be ignorant about it because I'll find my happiness in there. When in reality, I was stressed all the time. I was worrying. I was like trying to be the best I could be, going over and above. And,
Right.
someone, and for no appreciation whatsoever for an occasional, oh, you're the best. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and then that
Below bare
sustains.
minimum.
Yes, because you're so used to getting so little, you get the bare minimum, and you're like, oh man, I am just so blessed to have this
Exactly.
relationship. And it's like, no, you're not, dude. That's kind of where I'm at right now. But it gets easier every day, I think. And uh like, keeping busy, obviously, like you said, like with work or gym or whatever it is, oh my goodness,
Right.
like, just things like that makes such a difference. So
I'm so proud of you. Oh my God.
thank you.
I really want to thank you, John, for sharing your part of the story. And just before we wrap it up, like for other victims listening right now, what do you think is important for them to know, or your advice you'd give them?
um I would just say, for me, one of the biggest things that I wish I would have realized, like, 2 years ago almost, and listen to your gut. Like, I think a lot of people, they know, like, I knew I wasn't, that this something was off. And like I said, every relationship is different. It has its own things,
Right.
whether it's cheating or whatever, all this different stuff. But like with me, it was just period. The way I was being treated wasn't right. And I felt that, but I didn't, I was like, something's off. Like, just, if you even have doubts like that for a moment, you need to explore your options. You shouldn't settle for something that, life, as cliche as it is, but life is so short, and we only have so much time. And it's like, I mean, I wish I could get those 4 years back. I'm not going to. I don't regret it, because it's helped me learn now, and I think
Right.
my next four are going to be a lot better. But at the same time, I wish that I would have looked for stuff like what you've provided, like a year ahead of time before I did,
Right.
and that would have made a big difference. I don't discount your feelings, is what I would say to people. Like, you do matter. You are important, no matter how much they belittle you. And you deserve to be happy. And there's
Right.
resources out there. There's things like, whether it's, just knowing that other people are going through it. And I think once you get the conversation started, whether it's with a therapist or something like that, or just, through people who offer services like this, makes such a difference. I know, and I will say this 100% without a doubt. I mean, unless something happened on the other end, but I would 100% still be in that relationship if I had never talked with you. I know I would have never ended it, because I just kept thinking, no, 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 don't give up. No, I love her. She loves me. Like, even though it was blatant that it needed to end, the way I was being treated and stuff like that. And I would have just kept doing it, because I just like, no, I can do this. I can do this. I can push through it. What are you pushing through? The years of your life and just waiting for the embrace of death? Like, that's not what you want. You deserve to be happy. And I think it never hurts to look for answers, to look for support. And there's a whole community out there. I think TikTok has become one of the best resources for so many things, besides just watching videos of people falling down. You know what I mean? It's great. There's so much support within that community. And it's been great for me, especially with all your help. I know that I would still probably be sitting at work waiting for a text, wondering, oh, like, just stuff like that, stress to the max, without your help. So
Oh, thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. Thank you. Like, It makes me so happy to know like I was able to, help someone, help you, help others, and it makes me want to do more, So thank you
No
so
doubt.
much. That I
No
love
doubt.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was even just a thing where just having you telling me about some of your experiences, like I didn't feel so alone because I didn't know who to talk to. Like, like I love my therapist to death, but like I don't think she can always relate relationship wise. And every therapist has their own specialty, things that they've been through. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
but when I got to talk to someone like you that actually I knew you weren't going to judge me because you had experienced the same things. And then also I knew you understood. I remember friends would be like, bro, just leave. She sounds like she sucks. Like, whatever. Like that. I mean,
It's not that
thanks.
easy.
Thanks for the advice. Yeah, I wish it was that easy. And it wasn't. And 9 times out of 10, I think only people that have been through it will get it, and so that for
Yeah.
me was finding the correct resources, not just a resource. But once I talked to you, and I was like, okay, I do need to do this. Like, you made me realize, like, John, this isn't healthy, so yeah, I'm forever indebted, and I'm very thankful. And yeah, that's definitely something I would recommend to people, is searching out sources like that,
Right.
that people that have been through it as well.
I remember in the beginning when I was talking to you, I was like, I need to get this guy out. I'm like, this is not good at all.
Yeah.
I think there was one time you messaged me like, "Oh my god, everything you said came true."
Yes, it was bizarre. Yeah, because I was like, I wasn't. I swear, I wasn't rolling my eyes when you were talking, but I was like, oh, that's not going to happen. I'm thinking, and like when you told me some stuff, like, oh, well, this would be the next move. Probably this will be the next move. Like, she's just setting you up for this, and then I remember just thinking, damn it, everything she said was 100% correct. Like, yep. I was like, exactly, because she's been through it. She knows. And there's a similarity in all of these relationships. And there's a reason, because the same tactics are being used, the same types of people. And people that have, a lot of empathy in their heart, like we want the best. I wish nothing ill. I want the best for her. I want all that stuff. It's just that there's still an attachment there. I can't help it, but I can't be around that. I don't need that. Go live your life. Whatever happens, happens. But it's a deep, deep connection that they've made deeper for you, and they
Right.
know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Of course.
So that was one of the things for me, knowing that while they may not all have the same goals or intentions, different things like that. I mean, when you're dragging a person around, regardless of what you intend, you know what you're doing to somebody.
Right.
You see this. And I'll actually remember, I told you about the time that she just came over
Right.
unannounced, basically. She was actually FaceTiming with her sister at that moment, and
Mhm.
so it made it like I couldn't really. It was just this whole awkwardness. And I remember, though, then after that, her sister messaged me, and it wasn't, she wasn't defending or anything or doing anything, but she just, in our conversation, she said, I could see so much pain in your face. And I was just like, exactly.
Mhm.
Because I knew where this was going, and I knew what it was about. And it was just one of those things. I was like, and that's the way it always was. And so I realized that, hey, it does show. People notice, people pick up on it, and other people go through this stuff, and you're not alone. That's one of my biggest things, is I think that was tough for me. And sorry, I'm long-winded, I'm talking a lot, but I do think that it's one of the toughest things to deal with, is you think that there's no other relationship like yours. And there may not be. There's specifics to every relationship. I don't want to discount anything that anyone goes through. Some
Right.
people it's physical, some people it's emotional. I respect everything. But like, it's so good to know that, hey, I'm not the only one that has gone through this. This
Right.
isn't completely and totally unique. So there are people that will listen, and sometimes that's all people need to take that next step, is you just need someone to listen to you. And for
Exactly.
me, that's what it was. Once I found you to start listening to me, I realized I can do this. I can get it off my chest, and it made a huge difference. Not having someone judge me, not having someone that was going to say, just get over it. So
Mhm.
that was a big difference in my life.
So happy to hear that. Oh my god, I feel so good now. Like, what?
Well, good. You should. You help people a lot, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, once again, I do thank you so much for sharing part of your story and yeah, and meeting with me today and making this possible.
Of course, no problem. Yeah, I wish I would have given more specifics or different things, but like I said, I think everybody knows what you're referring to when when you have. It's just, there's always going to be unique details about every situation and relationship, but at the same time, I think we all know the same type of the same type of lack of communication or mental communication that things that are going on. We all get it, we all feel
Right.
it, and there's a reason why people are looking stuff up on TikTok and doing different things like that, because they're experiencing these same things.
Right.
So
And hopefully this episode will give hope to others as well who are
sure,
still
yeah,
stuck in this
definitely,
situation.
definitely, yeah. It can be anything going on. It's there's definitely, you deserve to be happy though. There's a
Exactly.
there's a lot of happiness out there to be had. So don't waste your time on stuff.
Right. And at the end of the day, only you can pull yourself out because
Exactly.
nobody can do it for you.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And if you allow it to happen, that person is going to keep taking advantage of it, because that's an easy source of whatever they're getting and needing from you, and you're giving it to them.
Right.
And that was my thing. I never stopped it until I
Mm-hmm.
stopped it.
Exactly.
And then it's yeah, and then it's so much better once you do, because you do realize that you can do it. It's a matter of doing it, and as simple as that sounds, it's so hard.
It's
But
so
once you
hard.
once you do it, sometimes it's just waiting for that right moment, and once it hits. But guess what, there's not always a right moment, so sometimes you just have to make a moment, and that's kind of what happened with me. Is I just something happened, and I just said, this is it, I'm going for it. I have to bring this up. And that was and for me, I needed a moment to get out. Some people can just, man, I mean, like, if you can just block the person and move on, that is great. But for me, that wasn't going to work, I felt like. And it took a little longer than I would have liked. But once I did it, it was so much better. So
Right. All right. Well, thank you again for sharing a part of your story. Thank you. I
you're
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
Of course. Of course. Thank you for all your help.
Thank you.